Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kim McDaniel. I'm going to be a facilitator for your virtual college exploration for all Virginia students today. We have a wonderful panel lined up for you. But before we get started, I just wanted to go over a few little things. All of you will not be able to have your cameras on or your microphones on, but we still have a Q&A button that you can use to chat with all of our panelists today and ask some questions that you might have. And then also, please go to strivescan.com/Virginia to sign up for any more presentations or sessions that you might be interested in hearing from. And if you don't hear everything today, we will be recording this, and that can also be found on strivescan.com/Virginia. So if you have any follow-ups on anything, please don't hesitate to do any of that. But at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn everything over to our presenters so that way they can get going with you. Have a great time.
Well, good morning, everyone. We're so excited for you to join us for the LGBTQ College Search presentation. I'm joined by some phenomenal colleagues across different institutions in Virginia, and we're so excited to share some information that we hope will be valuable and helpful to you as you begin your college search process. My name is Kaylin Asif. I'm the Director of Admission at Hollins University. I use she, her pronouns, and as you can see, my contact information is listed there. So feel free to follow up, call, text me if you have any questions moving forward, but I'm going to turn it over and allow my fellow presenters to introduce themselves.
Good morning. I'm so glad everyone was able to join us. My name is Jason McNair-Falk. I have the opportunity of serving as Dean of Admissions at Longwood University in Farmfield, Virginia. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm so excited to bring this information to you. Hopefully you can get something out of this presentation that can help you as you choose the best fit university. Hopefully it's Longwood. If it's not, we're here to help you get to wherever your best fit is. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Ficcadeni. I'm an admissions counselor at Radford University. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm also an alum of Radford. I graduated in 2018, and I was significantly involved in the advancement and inclusivity of LGBTQ plus students and organizations on campus. So very similar to Jason, I want you to consider Radford, but we are just here to help you find the best fit for you. And I'm so excited that you're here today.
Hi, my name is Olivia Lehman. I'm an admissions counselor at the University of Mary Washington in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I am an alumni of Mary Washington as well. And just to echo what everybody said, I'm super excited to kind of show you both kind of some insight into the college process, but also to obviously show that Mary Washington is a great place for you as well. But I'll go ahead and let Marianne introduce herself as well.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marianne Vernelson. I'm a senior admission counselor at Randolph College, which is my alma mater. I also serve as the Fine Arts Recruitment Coordinator. I use she, her pronouns, and I am so jazzed that you're all here today. All of my colleagues here are just incredible human beings, and I hope we have an awesome presentation for you. I think that it would be the cat's meow, or should I say, Wildcats meow if you would check out Randolph College, but we are here to help with the search as a whole.
Great, well, we will go ahead and dive right into the content of the presentation, but definitely want to make sure that you are aware that we want to answer questions for you. And so there is the chat Q&A feature that you can utilize throughout the presentation. If you have questions, we'll be in there to answer those for you. But why do we want to discuss this topic? So what draws all of us to this topic? Well, for starters, we're all really passionate about this, whether we identify as LGBTQ or allies. We're really passionate about the work and wanting to make sure that students have access and the support in order to make their best fit for their college choice. So LGBTQ students, like any other college student, have the right to find a college community where they feel welcomed, supported, included, and have wonderful resources available to them, as well as feel celebrated because of their identity, not despite their identity. And that's really important. So finding a safe and inclusive community is a way for LGBTQ students to ensure that you're able to really focus on the purpose of your college experience, which is to get your education and really learn both inside and outside the classroom and find that great sense of community within a campus environment. If a campus isn't inclusive of LGBTQ students, your kind of ability shifts, right? And so you start thinking more about how can you protect yourself and how can you find safety on a college campus. And so we want to make sure that you have the resources and the information in order to make your most informed decision when it comes to finding an inclusive community for you on campus so that you're really able to engage in the purpose of your college experience. We're here to offer some insights and support as you navigate the college search process. And it's stressful enough. So it's stressful enough for any student, but for you to be thinking about the additional factors that you want to consider looking for a college during that will really be supportive of your identity is really important. And so while you may be joining us because you either identify under the LGBTQ umbrella or because you are an ally or supportive of the LGBT inclusion at college, it's important to note that we want to make sure that not just your LGBTQ identity is supported and factored into your college search, but that you're also thinking about the other multidimensional identities that make up who you are. So thinking about that intersectionality. So what are those multitudes and multiple identities that you are able to identify with, and how can a college community be supportive of all of those things? So for example, if you identify as an LGBTQ student, first generation, and student of color, will the campus that you're looking for and that you want to pursue be supportive and provide resources for all of these different identities? You may not necessarily feel like you need to seek out support and resources for all of these identities, but it's really important that you know that they exist and that they're there to show that a campus is inclusive of all of the diversities that exist within the college itself and all the diversities that exist within you as a person. So let's dive further into the search process. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues to get started and help you start to navigate that process a little bit further.
Thanks so much for that intro, Kaylin. I just wanted to kind of jump in, adding on to a lot of those things. The most important thing is, first, how do you pick the schools on your short list that you want to start looking into? So first, you want to be thinking through some introductory questions that might not even have to do with your identity. Things like, what kind of size school are you looking for? Do you want kind of a smaller school, a bigger school? Do you want to be far away from home, a drive away, a flight away? Those things you kind of want to think about when you're starting to look at schools. Do you have a specific academic program in mind? Are you looking for a specific major? How important is it to have a visible, active LGBTQ community? Is that something that you're really looking for, or is it just a complementary aspect? These are all things that you might just want to be thinking about when you start looking for schools. But if you're not really quite sure where to start, the Campus Pride Index is a great resource for you to know about. And we have included the link in a later slide, so don't worry if you're trying to find it right now. We have provided the link in a following slide. But basically, the Campus Pride Index has a lot of different tools. They rank schools on a rating of 1 to 5, kind of ranking their friendliness to LGBTQ students. And there's lots of ways to search within the index. So if you do know you want to go to a small school, you can sort by small schools. You can look at single-sex institutions. You can look for religious affiliated schools. Whatever you're looking for, it has tools for you to search and look for that campus in a city center. So there's all sorts of different tools that you can look for. And if you want to rank, only 5-star index schools, you can do that as well. We also have on that website, I say we haven't created it, it's just a tool. There's a tool on that website that actually ranks the 40 best campuses this year based on their overall rating of friendliness for LGBTQ plus students. So if you really have no place to start, that's a great place to start because it's ranking the 40 best. And you can kind of look through those and get a jumping off place. That being said, just because a school isn't ranked on the Campus Pride Index or isn't included doesn't mean that it's not an inclusive school. You do have to submit to be part of that index. So it's possible that schools have a multitude of reasons that they haven't been put on it yet. I would say you do want to consult the worst list that's on this website. There is a kind of of shame list on the Campus Pride Index of schools that have been proven in the past to either discriminate or kind of have a track record of discriminatory practices towards LGBTQ students and community members, or institutions that have received or applied for Title IX exemption in order to discriminate against LGBTQ students. So those are things that you want to be kind of conscious of, but that's kind of some good places to start for building your short list. There's also, of course, the role of admission staff. So I'm going to pass that over to Marianne to talk about, once you're actually visiting campuses or talking with admissions, some ways to kind of ask and get some information in person or virtually.
Thanks, Olivia. So let's talk about what exactly the role of an admission counselor is, because a lot of students aren't really sure what we do. I mean, I know when I was going through the college search, I had no idea what an admission counselor was. We are here to help you navigate your college search. We are here to be a friend. We want to be someone that you can connect with and get to know and feel comfortable with. But we're also here to be your resource. We want to help you get to know our particular college campus. We want to connect you with other people at the college. So if you tell me that you're interested in pre-med, I can put you in touch with our pre-med advisor. If you tell me that you're interested in the arts, I can put you in touch with a theater professor, or I can give you a tour of the theater. So we are here to really be your plug to give you the ins and outs of our institutions. But we are also here to be an advocate for you. In the admissions search, your admission counselor is going to be your biggest cheerleader. They want to see you succeed, and the more you want to be involved in the search, the more we want to be of assistance. The way that this ties into the college search for LGBTQ plus students is that we want to provide you with the resources you need. In order to do that, of course, there's a certain level of comfortability that you have to have with us. If you're not out, that's totally fine. We're not asking you to out yourself to us or to your family or to anyone around you. But what we want to do is help you learn some questions that you can ask in order to see if the college is an environment that you feel comfortable and safe at. Not only are there questions that you can ask your admissions staff and you can see as you're applying through the admission process, but really your first point of questioning contact is going to be your campus tour.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of come back and add some things that you could ask on your campus tour, and things that you can kind of ask directly to your counselor, as well as some ways that you can identify if a campus is LGBTQ friendly without asking, because sometimes you're not comfortable. I know when I toured colleges, I wasn't comfortable asking any of those questions, and so I looked around to try and figure it out. So some questions that are direct that you can ask are specifically asking about gender inclusive housing options. That's a great question to kind of talk about. If you want to ask a more general question, you can ask, how do you separate dorms? Because then usually your tour guide will just tell you how they're separated by gender, and you don't have to specify that that's what you're interested in. You can ask specifically about clubs on campus. So if you want to ask if there's an LGBTQ club on campus, that's a great thing to ask. If you're not comfortable asking that, you can say, are there any multicultural or diversity clubs on campus that would be of interest? And that way you might get told about it without specifically outing yourself or asking. So those are all great questions to kind of think about. Thinking about talking to your tour guide is also a good idea. So most colleges have student tour guides. So if you're intimidated by asking the counselor, asking a current student might be a little bit easier for you and be a little bit less intimidating. There are also some ways to notice around campus if a school is inclusive. Things like rainbow stickers, HRC logos. I have one handily behind me right here. If you can see different signage around campus, things like gender neutral bathroom signs. All of those are great ways to just kind of get a glance and see if a school is going to be inclusive without coming out and asking directly. You might also see flyers for on-campus events. We had our GSMA week last week on campus, and so there were flyers all over for barbecues and for the Day of Silence, which is going to be happening. So there's all sorts of different events that you'll see posted on campus. You can also check social media. So we have drag shows on campus, so there are usually photos from drag shows. All of those are kind of nonverbal identifiers that you can kind of take a look for, as well as any course offerings. There was a queer literature class on our course offerings that I saw when I was looking at classes at Mary Washington, and I immediately was like, oh, I'm going to sign up for that course, because that means that there's going to be an even higher level of discussion and kind of support even from faculty as well. So those are some different kind of nonverbal identifiers. Does anybody have any other questions to add that you could ask on the college tour?
So going back to working with your admission counselor, you can expect a certain level of student counselor confidentiality, and that should help you feel safe asking questions to your admission counselor. So if you're sending me an email, if you're chatting with me on the phone, and you're not out to your family, just tell me. You can look for those nonverbal identifiers with your admission counselors as well. So, for example, you'll notice that all of us included our pronoun identifiers when we introduced ourselves. That could be just a little clue as to, is this someone that I can feel comfortable with? If you were to go into my office, as Olivia mentioned, you would see that I have a little safe space training sticker on my cubicle wall. So these are all ways that you can identify, this is an ally. This is someone that I can confide in. So if you want me to refer to you with certain pronouns, but my parents don't refer to me with those pronouns, that's something that you can navigate with your counselor, because we are going to take care to work with you as you are.
Yeah, and adding into that, we're going to move on to the next section, which is specific policies and protections.
Thank you so much, Olivia. So you've already gotten some great insight during the college application process as you are searching for your right fit. So it's good to know that across institutions, there are some protections that you have that will not vary between the institutions that you're applying to. But then there's also some specific policies that may, depending on which institutions that you're applying to. So one of my favorite policies that I love talking about, and yes, I'm one of those weird persons that love talking about policies, is the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, also known as FERPA. Those who work in admissions, we really enjoy this policy because it allows us to have real, honest, transparent conversations with students. And you, the student, feel very comfortable knowing that there's information that we can and cannot share without your permission. And so, for example, if you are age 18 or older and you attend an institution, you have to give us permission to share some of that information with your parents. For example, if you did not want to share your academic transcripts, you did not want to share some financial aid information, contact information with your parents, then you can provide us that and say, please do not share any information with anyone. On the flip side, you can also say, please share this particular piece with this person, or don't share the transcript with my dad, but you can share it with my mom, which you think that does kind of happen from time to time. We all have stories that we can share, but it really allows you to know that the information that you share with us is the information that stays with us. We really look forward to making sure that whatever we share, we get your permission to share. Now, there's also other regulations as well. Title IX, which is part of the Education Amendment Act of 1972, it protects your right as a student to not be discriminated against based on your sex or your sexual identity as well. So if you choose to disclose on your application any information about your sexual identity or sexual preference, we cannot use that to say yay or nay throughout the admissions process. Also, if you're going through that process and you're finding that you do feel like you are discriminated against or you do have a question, please reach out to the office, ask questions. You also have all of our contact information as well. We are well connected. I think between the four of us, we probably know someone at every institution throughout Virginia. And it's a great opportunity that, again, even though you may not be applying to our institutions, we are here as a voice for you if you feel that you need help throughout the application process. When we get to the idea of housing, we do have institutions that are gender specific, and my colleague Kayla is going to jump in here and talk a little bit about how specific housing may work at a gender specific institution. Kayla, you want to jump in here?
Sure. So gender neutral housing options are available at many co-ed institutions. Hollins University, if you're not familiar, is an all women's college at the undergraduate level. So like Jason was mentioning with the application process, which we'll talk a little bit more about moving forward for single sex institutions, while sexuality and sex and gender are protected through Title IX, there are some opportunities with single sex institutions to be able to remain single sex institutions. And so with that, Hollins does have a policy on having to affirm that you live and identify as a woman in order to apply for admission to Hollins. And there are other policies and practices at other women's colleges and men's institutions so that it kind of protects the history, although many of them are being more and more inclusive and wanting to make sure that students are able to have be gender neutral and have the opportunity to live in gender neutral housing. Students that are non-binary, students that identify as transgender have the opportunity to still receive their education and complete their education at single-sex institutions, because there are many benefits of single-sex, historically single-sex or women's institutions in terms of safety and comfort within a community. And so in terms of housing at Women's College, we have some different housing options at Hollins that allow for students to celebrate their identities in different ways, but we don't have gender neutral specific housing. We do have a lottery system so students can identify who they want to live with. And for the most part, our community is really inclusive, but there are co-ed institutions. I've worked previously at some larger co-ed institutions that specifically might have an LGBTQ floor or an LGBTQ hall where they know that the community is going to be supportive of their identity and have gender neutral restrooms on that floor, on that wing. And so there are opportunities, if that's something that's really important to you in your college search, that you can actually seek out on many colleges' websites on their housing, or sometimes embedded in their LGBTQ center, gives you access to resources on where are those LGBTQ friendly halls or buildings or gender neutral restrooms on the campus, so that you don't have to feel like you have to search and seek that out yourself. So you can have that resource available to you there. So that's a really great option, so that you know that there's a community within the community itself that's going to be supportive of your identity and allow you to feel safe and comfortable in your living space, because that is a really important aspect of your college experience as well.
And as you can see, that there's many institutions that really go above and beyond to ensure that you have a safe place, a safe space, so that you feel a part of that community. If you are like myself, I went to college on a full track and field scholarship, so I was a student athlete. It was really important for me that even as a student athlete, where there are some preconceived ideas of what an athlete is, I wanted to feel a part of a community. I'm happy to say that the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA, has gone and put together a policy that really talks through a student athlete who may identify with being a trans male or female. There are specific policies that protect you as a student athlete as you are going through the process. It is a very daunting document. It is page after page of information. I encourage you, if you are planning to play sports on the collegiate level and you're fit within this category, reach out to someone that you feel very comfortable speaking with, go through that and make sure that the information provided in that document is understood, because it can affect any potential scholarship opportunities that you receive. And it is very specific on what guidelines need to be followed if you plan to be a trans male or female student athlete. One of the things that I find a lot as I work with students is when we talk about the name. There's many ways throughout the application process that you can put your preferred name. A lot of students may put a nickname. You know, one of my favorite ones is Big Pookie. Maybe that's not the best preferred nickname to put down, but it gives a great example of during the application process, you have an opportunity to put down your legal name at birth, but also provide us another name that you are preferred to be called. It's really important that you do understand that your preferred name, depending on the institution, may or may not can be added to the class roster, on your academic transcript, or on any other official institution facing information that you have. Many institutions sometimes may have a policy that only your legal name must be included on institutions, transcripts, and other documents like that. If you are in the process of legally changing your name, or if you are in the process of transitioning and there's another preferred name, I really encourage you to reach out to the specific institution and ask those questions. Most have a policy around it. For example, at Longwood University, you can have your preferred name down on a class schedule or on your academic transcript. However, when you do graduate and you have your diploma, we must use your legal name there. So there's many different policies and processes that depend on the various institutions. Does any of my colleagues want to jump in and kind of share from an institution perspective, what do you all do?
Yes, and I think we will wrap this up quickly and keep moving on. But in terms of names, I think it's really also important to note, like Marianne mentioned in a previous slide, that if you have a preferred name that you would like your admission counselor to refer to you as, but again, you might not be out to family members who are also involved in your college search, that's something important to disclose. Because we want to make sure that we are identifying you in the way that you want to be identified through your college search process, but not outing you to your family. So even on things like your acceptance letter, your financial aid award that you receive, if you need for it to have your legal name as your identifier, and then when we are having conversations with you, use your preferred name, that is something that we want to make sure that we're doing so that we are protecting you in the process as well. And then I know when we're talking about SGA legislation, some of our institutions rely on SGA and the Student Government Association to lay the foundation and help formulate practices for surrounding LGBTQ inclusion on campus. And so I know Radford University's specific gender neutral housing was really founded and pushed through SGA legislation. And so that protection exists there. So that could be another way that you really allow your voice to be heard and contribute as a student that wants to be really inclusive or an ally to LGBTQ plus students, is being a part of the SGA because that's a platform for you to really dive in, make sure that your voice is heard, and make sure that your community is supportive.
And just very quickly, we'll talk a little bit about the application process and identifying if you choose to put down a gender identity. Most institutions have it as a text field option where you can type in exactly what you prefer to A, be called, or B, to be identified as. It does not have any variance on your admissions decision. And honestly, I've been working in the field for about 15 years and we never reach out and ask any student to clarify. So feel free to be open and honest on your application. And most importantly, remember, it will not have any basis on your admissions decision.
Yeah, and the only caveat to that would be for those single sex institutions. So where they might have a different question that is asked on the application. Like I said earlier, some institutions require an affirmation statement or base their decision off of the sex identifier. We do have an affirmation statement, but do not base our ability for you to apply and enroll based on the sex, so the sex assigned at birth. So that's something that's really important if you are considering single-sex institutions. Know their policies and practices because they all vary. Some are very transparent with those policies and practices, and those are disclosed on a lot of their websites, and you can find different resources that showcase those. Some are a little bit more closed off in the information that they share. So that's a good question to be following up with admission counselors or anybody on the admissions staff if you are considering a single-sex institution and want to know whether or not you'll be able to apply and attend based on their policies and practices. Go ahead and move right along into the community resources.
Yeah, so obviously you want to go to an institution that is accepting and loving towards you as an LGBTQ plus student, but you also can take advantage of the surrounding community. So we all of our universities are located in a specific region in the state of Virginia, and our regions have a lot of opportunities for you as a new resident of sorts to really take advantage of. So jumping back into Campus Pride Index, like Olivia mentioned earlier, just because a school isn't listed doesn't mean that it's not inclusive. So again, just to reiterate what Olivia said, you don't take it as a grain of salt and really try to invest some time into research for you. So for instance, I tried to get Radford listed last year and we still haven't moved forward. So it does take a significant amount of time for institutions to be listed. So just because you don't see it on there doesn't mean that that university doesn't have inclusive practices, policies, and others. Because every school does do it different, very similarly to what Kaylin mentioned earlier about how Radford got gender inclusive restrooms, is that I worked with the SGA in order to create that policy, and it went through the different channels of the university to become an official thing. So it wasn't someone from a higher level within the university that trickled down and said, hey, this is something we need. Students advocated for it and made it happen. So going along with that, you also don't have to dictate your college search based on your community identifier. You're a student first and foremost. That's why you want to go to school. And being a part of the LGBTQ plus community is a complementary factor to you as a student. So if you found that perfect fit for you, that's where you want to go, but you can't seem to find those resources or things to get involved in, don't be afraid to be the first. Speaking from personal experience, that's what I did. I walked onto campus completely not expecting to do anything for my community, but in the time that I was a student, several things happened. So don't be afraid to be the first and really spearhead the initiatives for your school. But as you dive into the local community, so as a frame of reference for the Radford Roanoke area, there are diversity centers. So there is a Lynchburg Diversity Center near Randolph. There is the Richmond Diversity Center for Longwood and University of Mary Washington. And then there's the Roanoke Diversity Center for Hollins and Radford students. So again, there is going to be there should be and will more than likely be a diversity center or an LGBTQ plus center on your campus, and they can direct you to off-campus opportunities. But there are going to be diversity centers within the local community as well, and they will host cool events. Roanoke has a Pride. I didn't even know that until I got here, and it is very similar to how they emulate DC Pride or Orlando Pride or very large-scale city prides. Even our own campus has a student-centered Pride event as well. So really try and dabble into the local community because they're also going to offer legal resources. So if you are trying to go through a legal name or gender change policy for your own benefit, just as a human being, you can go through that process with some law firm in the local area, or find a local representative that can help you through that process. There is a lawyer in the Radford area that specifically reached out to me as the community representative at Radford that said, hey, I'm offering name and gender change policies and assistance at $30 flat out. And that's exceptionally cheap. So, and she was going to do the entire process for you, the entire legal documentation, going to court, everything, for $30. So you can really dive into what the local community is going to offer you, and they will surprise you as to what they can offer you. And on top of that, just like there are just so many different events that you can get involved in. Like, again, the Campus Pride Index also has college fairs. So like they have national-wide college fairs that you can attend that will assist your college search. And in terms of one last resource I do want to mention to you guys is that there is a higher education community. So for layman's terms, it's PCACAC, and there are special interest groups. And we recently launched an LGBTQ plus and ally special interest group that Jason and I are the leaders of. And so if you are going through the college search process and reaching out to these different universities about policies, practices, you may not know what questions to answer, you can reach out to the higher education organization and reach out to Jason or I, and we can give you the connections to across the state and across other states as well, because that's what our region encompasses. So again, don't be afraid to reach out and really take advantage of what is offered to you within your university's community, as well as just the region as a whole.
And adding on to all those different resources, we kind of have listed out here a lot of different institution-specific resources or clubs, organizations. For Mary Washington, we have Safe Zone, which I put the sticker up for earlier, but that's a training for faculty, staff, community members as well. So if you're a student leader, you could also get this training, and it's how to kind of be an ally and advocate and an active bystander for LGBTQ students. We have PRISM, which is a student-run organization, and they do a lot of events. They did our GSMA week. They do the Day of Silence, quite a lot of activity. They do PRISM prom, which some other institutions do a prom as well, but it's for a lot of high school students who maybe couldn't be their authentic selves at their prom. So it's another opportunity to kind of experience that. We also have the James Farmer Multicultural Center, which does a lot of organizing and assisting students, and also just has a nice lounge space for students of color and LGBTQ students. So those are some Mary Washington specific resources.
Yeah, and at Hollins, we do have a Safe Haven, which is our safe zone training. So again, that's an opportunity for community members, faculty, staff, and students to educate and learn more about LGBTQ plus inclusive practices and how to be a better ally and advocate, not just within the Hollins community, but just some good resources for you to know as a person. We also have our Sexuality and Gender Alliance, or SAGA as we call it at Hollins. I'm the co-advisor for that organization, and we have several different events, drag bingo being one of them, which is pretty popular. We do an event for Coming Out Day, Transgender Remembrance Day, with an opportunity for students to utilize our chapel space for some reflective thinking and paying homage to transgender individuals who've lost their lives. And a number of other fun opportunities for students to engage on campus and support one another. And I think that it is really a community practice. So while we have this organization, the whole campus community is really comes out and supports our events and makes sure that our SAGA students and students who identify as LGBTQ plus feel support and included on campus.
Along with university, we have the Pride Club, and it sounds exactly what it is. It's a club where you can be excited to be who you are. What I love most about this club is that it's not only for students who may identify, but also any students who may have friends who are, or they want to support you going through your journey. So it is an all-inclusive club where students can get together and talk about any issues that are affecting anything that you're going through. I will say I'm jealous of Hollins and the drag brunch and bingo. I may have to come up there and visit, and that's probably something that I'm going to introduce to the Pride Club to say we need drag something on campus. But it's a super inclusive community, and again, it's for all students, just not students who identify on campus. There's many staff and faculty members who are a part of that as well.
At Radford, our student-run organization is Spectrum. That was the club that I founded personally as a student when I came here. How I mentioned, like, I didn't have that plan, but here we are. Within Spectrum, it's kind of the all-encompassing LGBTQ plus community resource and things. So a handful of things that we've done in the past is campus Pride, so we try and emulate DC Pride, bring it to campus. We also have our own version of prom. We do lavender graduation, which is a special graduation ceremony to recognize LGBTQ plus students. We have done drag shows in the past, both that were professionally done and students. We had students who came and performed drag, which was very awesome to see. And then our Center for Diversity and Inclusion, or the CDI, houses all of our multicultural and religiously diverse organizations. So Spectrum is an organization that is housed in that center. And then we do have Safe Zone as well. We actually had an office-wide Safe Zone last year. So every single individual in the admissions office at Radford University has gone through Safe Zone training, which I am very proud of because I asked them to do it and they said yes. And they were like, yeah, we'll do it. So that's just what Radford's got.
At Randolph, I didn't mention it on the slide, but we also do offer safe zone training, which is really exciting. As a matter of fact, all of our staff members are also required to go through diversity training. So we like to be on the up and up and support our students. Our student organization for the LGBTQ plus community and allies is called Bridges Not Walls. They work with staff on the college's campus to put together anything from our campus Pride Week to help out the Lynchburg Diversity Center with Lynchburg Pride. Last year, we hosted Miss Richfield 1981, who is an amazing drag queen. We have had student and faculty staff drag shows on our campus, which are always really exciting. But yeah, lots of awesome stuff going on, just like at my colleagues' institutions.
And we just wanted to reiterate that we are here to support you during your college search process, during this journey. I know that with COVID, there's been some additional challenges with completing your college search, but we are here and want to make sure that you have our contact information so that you can reach out to us at any point throughout your college search and selection process. We want to be your best ally, your best advocate, your best cheerleader. So please do not hesitate to write our contact information down. We'll have your contact information following the presentation so that we can reach out to you as well. But we just really appreciate you joining us today. So thank you so much for attending our presentation.
And you can come visit our beautiful institutions that I put up photos of here. So don't hesitate to come visit when you're able.
Yes, and I do know, I know we have a couple minutes left, so I know in this kind of COVID era, like Olivia said, visit our campuses. I know it might not be as convenient for folks to make their way to our beautiful campus communities, but there are wonderful ways for you to continue to engage, not just with virtual programs that VACRAO is putting on, which they had a wonderful array of programs, but also virtual programs for each of our respective institutions. So I know we're virtual overload at this point, but many of us offer different virtual programs for you to engage, opportunities for you to speak with current students so that you can get a sense of the campus community. Some of us have student panels that are specific to LGBTQ students and how they feel inclusive on their campus, or diversity student panels, so you can get a better sense of the campus community that way. So encourage you to check out our virtual programming opportunities. All of them, I believe, my fellow colleagues are nodding their heads. I think all of them are available via our admission websites. So check those out and visit once you feel safe and able to do so that you can get a really good sense of the communities and what our institutions have to offer. Anything else? Any other tips that our panelists want to share before we wrap things up?
Just thank you all so much again for joining us. I know that the last thing that anyone wants to do right now is add yet another session on Zoom to their day, but we really hope that the information that we were able to provide you is helpful during your college search. We are here for you, and that's kind of the whole shtick of what we do. So thank you.
Yes, You are important, you are valid, and you deserve to find your best fit school. So thanks for joining.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I did just want to share a quick thing. As soon as you close out of this, you are going to get a very quick 4-question survey that'll appear. If you could just fill that out for us and our panelists, that'd be great. Again, if you want to sign up for some more sessions, it's going to be at www.strivescan.com/Virginia. And this session itself will be recorded and you can find it on that website as well. But thank you all so much for joining us today. And I hope you have a great and wonderful day.